Well, first of all, it's important to realize that anxiety and fear are natural responses to what the world is experiencing right now. You're not less than, you're not diseased, you're not broken.
I don't want to just cope. I don't want to come out of this scarred on the other side as a family. Like, I want to come out of this healthier and stronger, and I want to come out thriving and flourishing as a family. Well, I am joined here with a good friend of mine, Dr. Roy Salgado. Roy is a family therapist with a specialty in child therapy. So, Roy, these are obviously challenging times that we find ourselves in as parents, as we're charged with leading our kids. These are heavy times. We're stressed out. We're having to learn new things. They're having to learn new things. And I think that, I think it's just hard times. We find ourselves often in these untenable situations, these untenable circumstances. And I'm honored that you've taken the time out of your day, because I know that you're slammed right now with all of your work and some of the projects that you're working on. So the fact that you would take some time to come hang out with me and give some good counsel to my clients and my viewers and listeners, I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. Absolutely. It's very uncertain times. We've never seen anything like this. Professionals have never seen anything like this. Leaders have never seen anything like this. World leaders have never seen anything like this. And so that trickles down to, the youngest, to children. I am a professor of counseling and behavioral sciences at the University of Holy Cross, and I teach students how to become mental health providers for children and adolescents, for the general population at large, but specifically those who choose to specialize with children and adolescents. And all of the anxieties, all of the uncertainties, all of the fears that our world leaders and that our community leaders are experiencing, that parents are experiencing, get trickled down to the children. They have questions. My son recently, he asked, "Daddy, are you, Mommy, and Layla going to disappear?" Layla is his grandmother. And this is all as a result of COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic.
Wow.
He asked that question as a 3-year-old, wondering, not because we're talking to him directly about it, because we hadn't been, but because he had picked up on the news, he had picked up on our conversations with one another. And so it's important that we address those questions and those concerns in our children, whether they're 3 years old or 17 years old, because they have them.
So let's start there. These are heavy topics, right? Your 3-year-old is saying, "Are you going to disappear?" i.e., are you going to die? How do we have some of these conversations with our kids? How do we have them? And I guess at different ages, right? Kids can process and consume or digest information differently, but how do we have some of these difficult conversations? Or do we?
You tell them the truth with regard to the question that they ask, and you don't give more than that. You ask them questions, and you hear what their response is, and usually their own response to their own question is satisfactory for them, and you let it go. So for example, when he said, "Are you going to disappear? Are you, Mommy, and Layla," which is his grandmother, "are you going to disappear?" We said, no. That's why we're staying home. We're staying home every day. If you've noticed, Daddy's not going to work. Mommy doesn't go to work. Layla's not going to the grocery store. We did all of that already. We got enough food to last us for 6 weeks. We have enough water. Have you noticed all the water that we have here? We have more water than we've ever had, more paper towels, more toilet paper. That's so that we can stay home.
So you have all the toilet paper.
I'm one of them, I guess. with the few that we could get. We didn't get all that much. But we have more things stocked than we typically would. And just bringing those real world concrete things. So, as long as we stay here right now, we're good, because Mommy's not sick, Layla's not sick, Daddy's not sick, you're not sick. We're all here right now. We're healthy. We're watching our TV shows. We're playing together. We're eating our meals together. We're reading books together. We're doing all these things, and we're safe. And no one is disappearing.
So he's 3. So he's satisfied probably with that answer, because at 3, I would even say up till 7, 8, maybe even 10 or 11, kids still look at you as the leader, and everything you say they kind of accept as absolute truth, right? So how do you handle it where, you get the kid who's a little bit older, or maybe not even older, just a little bit more unwilling to buy that story? How do you continue to have that conversation?
Then you ask them questions still,
Mhm.
and engage in a conversation based on their line of questioning. And you offer honest information, honest, factual information based on what's happening, but specifically to the questions that are being asked. Don't give more information than the question that is asked. And only answer questions once they're satisfied, or up until
Mhm.
they're satisfied. We run the risk of giving more information typically, because we think that that's what they're asking. And then it prompts more questions. And so just to be mindful and intentional and very purposeful and limited in our responses, kids are going to be satisfied sooner than we would think with their
Mhm.
questions being answered.
Yeah, that's it's kind of kind of reminds me of having the talk, right, with your kid. Just give
Right.
you know what I'm talking about, right? The talk,
The talk, absolutely.
the talk, the birds and the bees, right? You just give
Right.
them enough information. You know, where do babies come from? When mommy and daddies love each other a lot. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So how so kids are asking these questions, but we're also asking these questions as parents, and we're afraid and we're stressed out. How vulnerable do we make ourselves with our kids?
It's important that we show strength and security with our children. Um, what we feel gets transmitted down to them.
Hmm.
And children who don't see their parents being secure and strong, then they feel more insecure. We need to be strong for our children. We need to present a strong, secure, informed, knowledgeable front. Our vulnerabilities, perhaps we can share that with friends, with our spouses, with other adults. We need to
Hmm.
make ourselves vulnerable with our peers, but not with our children. Yeah, with children, it's important that we not make ourselves too vulnerable with children, especially in a situation such as this. Children's insecurities and fears are transmitted to them by their external environment, their parents. And
Hmm.
children only have one opportunity to grow up. We all only have one opportunity to grow up. They only have one childhood. And you want it to be a safe, secure one. It shapes their development. And if they are experiencing our insecurities and then they take that on, that's going to carry with them as they develop. So, especially with something as huge as this, like the Depression, World War II, now this pandemic, these are things that impact generations. So, we need to stay strong. And if we are going to express our vulnerabilities, let that be with our spouses, let that be with our friends, with adults who have a shaped, informed mind where we can
Hmm.
come together and express our fears and anxieties and insecurities with. But now with our children, we need to present a strong, secure front for them because they need it.
So let's say I'm worried as a parent, okay, and I'm trying my hardest um, not to kind of convey that to my kid, but there's just a reality that we handle stress and we get short, we're angry, or we get frustrated really easy. Is it okay to go to your kid and say, "Hey, look, daddy, that this is a tough time, and daddy's trying to figure this out, but we're going to be okay," right? Is it like,
Yes,
daddy is scared. It's okay. I mean, leadership sometimes is vulnerable, right? Parenting
sure,
sometimes is
sure,
vulnerable, right?
sure. And we need to balance that out with strength as well. There is strength in showing one's vulnerability. The way one goes about showing it, is going to really be proven over the course of this event. If you
Yeah.
have a parent who completely falls apart, that's not going to be good. But a parent who perhaps expresses, listen, daddy is experiencing a tough time too. This is not easy for me. Um, we'll get through this together.
Yeah.
That's going to look different than falling apart.
Yeah. And when we get to the end of this call, maybe you can share some resources for parents who are, I mean, because this is hard stuff. You're dealing with
Sure.
not just working from home. I mean, you got people losing jobs, losing revenue, losing income,
Right.
wondering, can I pay the mortgage? Do I have enough food?
Right.
What's going to happen on the other side of this? So it's tough. And I do think that there's value in the counsel of many. I
Yes.
think it's great. I think it's great the work that you do in not only teaching students, but you and Dr. Matt are also kind of undertaking a pretty huge project here
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that, because this is kind of cool.
Well, this is something that 2 weeks ago, we had no idea this would be happening professionally, that we are transitioning from a face-to-face mode of mental health delivery service to the community to one of remote or distance counseling or telemental health. We have trained at this point 300 professionals in the New Orleans metropolitan area in telemental health, and we are going to train another 200 plus this coming weekend. And as the days progress, we'll be training more and more. People all over the state of Louisiana have heard about the trainings that we are providing. There are a number of different providers that are training people on transitioning from face-to-face delivery of services to
Mm-hmm.
telemental health services. And it's really transforming the face of the provision of this type of service to the community. There's no turning back. The genie's been let out of the bottle, and I would
Yeah.
venture to say that this is how people are going to be receiving telemental health services in the state of Louisiana and worldwide for the foreseeable future.
And y'all are kind of on the front lines of that.
We are. We're on the front lines of that, and this is not a professional trajectory that neither he nor I envisioned 2 weeks ago. Yet here we are, thrust upon it. We are working harder now than we have in the recent past. We're working 24 hours a day, in essence.
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays providing this training. We have our regular jobs throughout the week providing telemental health counseling services to our own clients, as
Mm-hmm.
well as teaching our courses and attending our meetings. And then on Saturdays and Sunday, we're doing 9 hours each day of synchronous training through
Wow.
social platforms such as Zoom to mental health providers in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah. So since your time is that valuable right now, I want to ask a couple more questions before we have to end this
Sure.
call. So talk to me a little bit about how do we handle, I mean, there's a lot of togetherness right now. Okay. Kids would go to school, parents would go to work, they were away from each other, and they would just have the mornings or the evenings where they were together. And that was, manageable. But now everyone's together, and you all the jokes of like, oh, I can't, first thing I'm going to do when COVID's over is drop my kids off at school. And I get that, right? There's truth to that we need breaks from each other.
Right.
But I don't want to just cope. I don't want to come out of this scarred on the other side as a family. Like, I want to come out of this healthier and stronger. And I want to come out thriving and flourishing as a family. But the reality is, it's hard. I mean, we're already a homeschooling family, and it is hard. It's hard. Give us some pointers or some tips to thrive during this time.
Well, it's important to be proactive and to put a plan in place, and not just to wing it from day to day. And part of that is establishing a schedule, routine, structure. It's important that we have allocated times for meals, that we have allocated times for schoolwork and homework, and for work for the adults, and that there are designated spaces in the house for that. Daddy's got to go to work, so this is where daddy's going to be working in this physical space between this time, and that's to be respected. Mommy's got to work, and she's going to work from this time to this time, and that's got to be respected. You all will be doing your schoolwork and your homework between these times, and that will be respected. And just keeping those specific routines and structures in place and those boundaries, and implementing consequences when it doesn't take place. Because the truth of the matter is, for those of us who are privileged enough to still be able to work from home, that has to take place. Bills still need to get paid, food still needs to be bought, and kids need to understand that component. And they need to understand that this is not an extended summer vacation. Summer didn't come early. They still have schoolwork. They still have responsibilities. And then to understand that we need our own independent time too. One of the things that I, as the head of my household, have done, while I have a at right now a 14, 15-hour workday pretty much. What I have done is privately scheduled in,
Mhm.
a half hour in the middle of my day, and then another half hour where I still don't leave this space where I am at work, but they don't necessarily know that. According to them, I am teaching a class, providing a counseling session in a meeting where I can just sit and breathe and be calm and silent away from the people that are physically in the home with me, which consists of my wife, my son, and my mother, that I can have that moment,
Mhm.
and away from the people that I'm interacting with all day long through a screen. And so building that into your day and then teaching them to do that too, to
Yeah.
privately schedule in a time where they can just sit and be alone and not necessarily be around a lot of activity. Because even though we're in our homes, there's a lot of activity that's going on in our homes. And that in of
Yeah.
itself can be overwhelming.
Yeah. I think structure is so important. Um, I I naturally fight structure and rigidity, but I know that I thrive in it. My
Right.
wife naturally gravitates towards structure, so
Mm.
that that's a story for another day. But
Right.
that helps with the household, and I think that kids need structure. I think kids want structure, right? They
They
might
feel
fight it,
safer.
yeah.
They feel safer. They feel more secure when they know what to expect. When they know, okay, this is what happens at 8 o'clock. This is what happens at
Mhm.
noon. This is what happens at 5.
Yeah.
They feel safe and secure in knowing what to expect. When they don't know what's coming next, that's where the fear comes in, where the anxiety
So
comes in.
so kids will naturally fight that structure, right? Kids naturally push the bounds of the rules, but yet you say they like it. How do we as parents, how kind of what's that line that we push versus kind of give in a little bit?
I would say that the more effective way of going about it is just start doing it. Just say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's time to do your homework. So let's go online. Let's see what your assignments are for the day. Let's plan out the morning and let's plan out the afternoon and give them action items and tasks to complete by a certain point. Okay, let's see if we can get your math done and your ELA done by noon. Then we'll break for
Mm-hmm.
lunch. And then maybe in the afternoon, we can get your social studies and your science done. And then we'll break for the day at 3 o'clock. And just in small bits and pieces, structuring their day. And then you stepping away and doing what you need to do with regard to work. And another point with that, if you're fortunate enough to have more than one adult in the home, people who have spouses, to really implement that plan of action to say, divide and conquer. I will do this during this time while you do that, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
trade off to be able to manage things. For those that do not have another adult, perhaps single parents who have multiple children that they're having to care for, to figure out what the strengths are of the different children in your household and seek their assistance in providing that structure. If there's an older child who's responsible and who can perhaps step in and play teacher,
Mm-hmm.
they can play school with actual
Yeah.
school and just being creative and thinking out the box to get the things done that need to get done in any given day.
Like like how to do laundry and how to cook and how to vacuum, right?
Sure. These chores, we don't milk cows and go sow seeds anymore, most of us, but we do still have chores, and we still need to load the dishwasher and do laundry and mop and sweep and incorporate that into our daily activity. And the mopping and sweeping and these types of activities and cleaning, getting into the habit of
Mm-hmm.
just sterilizing everything. These are tasks that still need to get done on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
to incorporate the whole family in taking part in that.
So if we notice our kids being overwhelmed, maybe, like your son who just through the news is hearing these things and is maybe overwhelmed and maybe not satisfied with our responses. How do we push them? How hard do we push them? Do we give them a break from school? Do we change their schedule up? Like how do we manage that? And maybe what are some signs of our kids being overwhelmed?
Well, some of the signs perhaps would be irritability, complaints of stomach aches, somatic symptoms. That's typically how children respond. They either become irritable and aggressive,
Mhm.
or start to express somatic symptoms. Physical activity is helpful in mitigating that. And so, if you are fortunate enough to have a backyard, go into your backyard and play. You know, just move about, run around, play tag, kick the soccer ball around, throw the football around, whatever it is to get some physical activity, get some sunlight, to get vitamin D. And that helps elevate moods. That helps regulate activity. Breathe in, fresh air. Right now, we're told to social distance. We are still to practice that, but to the extent that we can go outdoors and be responsible about it, we need to do that. We need to step out of the four walls that we're in and go get some sunlight, go get some fresh air, and move about.
I wonder
That's
how
a
many
big
people,
stress reducer.
I wonder how many people just now, when you said breathe, actually took a deep breath. Cause I subconsciously, when you said breathe, I just took a deep breath and it was
Right.
actually felt good.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
felt,
I make it part of my routine. For the past 2 weeks, I made it part of my routine to step outside several times a day. I might be
yeah,
working for 4 hours straight or 5 hours straight. I'm like, let me go outside for 15 minutes and just sit
yeah,
under the sun and take in the breeze and the fresh air and
yeah.
sit under the tree,
Well, I've been in my
and
office. I've been working outside on
great,
my back porch, which has been very, very
great.
therapeutic, to be honest. It's been nice. I have to move with the sun because it starts to get hot.
Sure, sure.
Um, but I think what you just said about what kids should be doing if they're overwhelmed. I mean, that's pretty good advice for adults as well.
Right,
Yeah, I know for
right.
me, taking a jog or doing some exercise has been incredibly helpful for me just to stay mentally sharp and just to stay emotionally stable.
It's
Uh,
necessary.
yeah,
It's absolutely
absolutely.
necessary.
So share with us maybe some resources that are available for people if they're struggling. Maybe someone's never worked with a counselor before. Maybe they think that I don't want to go see a counselor. I'm not, that's not for me. But what are some resources to people, and what are some signs that maybe, hey, you know what, it might not be a bad idea to go have a conversation with someone like you or someone like one of your
Right,
counselors that you've trained.
right. Well, first of all, it's important to realize that anxiety and fear are natural responses to what the world is experiencing right now. You're not less than, you're not diseased, you're not broken. If you're experiencing cognitive symptoms, behavioral symptoms, somatic symptoms, um, affective symptoms as a result of what's going on, that's normal. And to be experiencing it throughout the duration of this event is likely. And that's a natural response from the body when there's a threat. And this is a real threat. So it's important to realize that you're well in that response. Two, there's ways of mitigating that in the day in and day out. Strong social support, eating meals together, playing together, relaxing together, meeting goals that have been set each day. Those things help to mitigate the stress. You feel like you're still producing, you feel like you're still in community, you feel like you're still engaging, which you are. You're doing all these things. If in spite of those efforts to reduce this anxiety and stress, you're still experiencing some extreme sense of being overwhelmed, and you're no longer able to meet the day to day, you're not able to function with your responsibilities of work or family, then you might need additional help. You might need professional help. And if that's the case, then you could perhaps reach out to a counselor, perhaps like one of the counselors at the University of Holy Cross. Reach out by calling that number and then being hooked up with a mental health provider who can help you through this. And now that everything has moved from face-to-face services to telemental health, there's really no reason to think that you can't get professional help. It's still there.
Well, great. Maybe what you can do is after we end this call, maybe you can forward me some links and I can put them into the show notes for people who may need to reach out to
That'd be
you and
great.
to any other resources that you may have. Well, man, look, I appreciate you taking time. Most of my days are spent talking about money and investments and retirement planning. But the reality is our emotions play a big role into how we manage money and how we function and relate to our money. So to have access to you and to your wisdom is super valuable to me, super valuable to my clients. And in the same way, you mentioned that kids observe and they see the stress and they see us, and that's why we have to be strong leaders. It's the same thing with money. Kids observe in us our money habits as parents. So it's important for us to work on ourselves and to have certain things in order so that we can communicate and teach these things to our kids, not just through our words, but also through our actions and through our own behavior. So, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you for helping keep Louisiana mentally healthy. God knows we need it. God bless, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. God bless you.
Yep.